in Los Angeles. I'm thinking the judge was the one who called INS. At that time was INS. ICE on me, and the next thing I know is that ICE officers were on my door very early in the morning, obviously looking for me. So I was transported to, at that time, was the San Pedro Detention Center, which is now closed because of the multiple issues that were happening in this facility, including one that you may be familiar with, which was the case of Victoria Arellano, who was a trans woman who died because she was not provided the medical she needed for her HIV status, or AIDS status, I should say. So really again, my experience at the time, and it's something that happens today, is that I was really placed, when I first got to the detention center, I was placed in a holding cell with about 70 men. Obviously, this was a very dangerous situation for me. I was constantly sexually harassed. Obviously, I was asked to, do sexual favors in front of everybody. People were just, approaching me to do that. And when I tried to address the situation with the guards, the response was that they didn't separate people like me. So the procedure also about getting in the shower, I had to get naked in front of several men. At the time, I had to shower in front of everybody, again, exposing me to sexual abuse. And after I was transferred to the dorm that I was going to be in, again, there were about 2 other trans women at this dorm. It was a dorm living situation, and the harassment continued. I could say that I am an empowered trans woman. I have been doing advocacy and advocacy work for a number of years when I got detained, and so I knew I could defend myself, but it wasn't the case of the other women that were there. So because of how I am, and I actually, again, because I was continuously harassed, there was this man in particular who, I guess I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I was in the toilet, sitting down, and this man came up to me, and of course the issue progressed because he had been harassing me for a number of days. So I got tired of it. He walked by the bathroom. This is obviously a bathroom where they have different stalls and all of that. I was there by myself. He went by and he started telling me things, and I had a book that I was just reading. I really wasn't doing anything, but I was just reading. So what I did, out of my frustration, I threw the book at him, and then we started. Obviously, he got angry, and we started fighting. And I'm I could say I'm a small woman, I guess. And this was a big, black, built man, and obviously, the difference was very significant. So it got to the point to where, next thing I know, I was on the floor, and he was hitting me while I was on the floor. So as a result of that, and then soon after, police came, or the guards came. We were both paper sprayed, and we were transported. I was transported to an outside hospital because I had a fracture. And then on top of that, I was punished for. So I was sent to ABSEC, or administrative segregation, because I got into a fight. I asked to speak to his supervisor, and I was denied to speak to a supervisor. And so, again, these are the issues that happened. right? Although the guards didn't know that I was Bamby Salecdo and that I knew a little bit of my rights, I could advocate for myself, but again, it's not the reality of many trans women. What is sort of like fascinating about my case is that soon after I was released, like a couple of days after I was released from the detention center to continue with my case, I'm thinking that had to do with how persistent I was, the complaints that I was making written complaints and all of that. But then again, that is not the reality of many trans women, particularly who are detained in these centers. I do want to say that the work that I do, I work with Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We do have a transgender program that's specifically for young people ages 12 to 24. And I also, I'm part of the trans Latina community. In Los Angeles, there is a large population of trans Latino immigrant women. And so these are the issues that I hear from women who have been detained, from women who have had similar experiences even today in the detention centers. The lack of knowledge from guards specifically about getting hormones, for instance, or even HIV medication. There's a lot of stigma that is attached to the trans community, right? But when it comes to HIV and AIDS, I believe that guards and really just personnel in general need to be educated about HIV and AIDS and understanding the situation about viral loads and all of those things that that if a person does not take their medications as they should, it could complicate their life and the way of living. It is important that we do understand that it is a culture that the law enforcement and custodians or guards that do work at these places, that will change that culture. We need to train and educate this personnel about not only trans issues but LGBT issues in general. Again, for what I know, even though my experience was several years ago, these are issues that continue to happen in our community. And we don't hear about it because, again, I could say I'm fortunate enough to be empowered and to be able to talk about this, but it's not the reality of our community, particularly when it comes to trans women. One of the issues that I do want to mention in regards to what has been shared by my fellow panelists is that trans issues when it comes to immigration reform are very complex and again are not often talked about and not addressed. An example of that, I could say, name change, for instance, or documentation, like really how one prefers to identify or the preferred gender as to what the legal name could be.